Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. This is your host, Nikki Corbett, and it is Thanksgiving week. I don't know about you, but Thanksgiving is always my favorite holiday. I think because it centers around food and not around gifts. So I always have such a more enjoyable time at Thanksgiving because it's strictly just about food and family and friends. So I hope that everybody is gearing up for a nice Thanksgiving and having a few days off of work and spending time with people that you love. So this week, I am super excited to be recording this podcast with my friend Nancy. She is a sorority sister, a friend, and I love the timing of everything because we've been going back and forth talking about getting this podcast recorded, and our messages had been a little sporadic in nature because we both have a lot going on. And she messaged me back literally the day after my Instagram stories reminded me that 6 years ago I was in Austin visiting her, and I had this beautiful picture that I had taken from the view of her balcony at her cool apartment building she was living at the time. So I just think timing is neat. So Nancy, welcome. Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here. And Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday for the exact same reason. I
love
love that it's not about gifts. It's just about being with the people that you love and expressing gratitude.
Yeah, it's great. Well, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and share your story, and we can get talking.
So I'm Nancy. I'm currently living in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. I'm participating this last year. My boyfriend and I made the decision to figure out where we want to live in the world, and we've been living in different states every couple of months. We started in Utah, Idaho, Colorado. We're headed back to Texas next month. So it's been an incredible journey.
It has looked so fun to be watching and following along. Amazing.
Yes, basically everything is just for our dog. We have a black lab named Emma, and she is the one who's benefiting the most from this trip and absolutely loves. Someone said the other day she would be a billionaire in the dog world, just on how well we take care of her and what we let her experience in the world. She's great. But the reason why I'm here today is because I'm really excited to talk to you and everyone listening about the event that my second round, I guess you can say, and changed my life forever. So should I just jump right into that?
Yeah, go for it.
So my background is, well, after college, where we went to school in San Diego, I fell into nonprofit event fundraising, and I was there for 20 plus years, and I got to the top of what I could do with that. But I was so work obsessed and career obsessed, and it was a badge of honor to work 80 hours a week and travel 100,000 miles a year. And I think it was my 39th birthday that I was like, no more. I can't do this anymore. And I tried to change and balance. And then a year or so later, I got laid off in May of 2018. And that day, I remember I kind of knew it was going to happen because my boss flew in to Austin to have our one-on-one that week. So I was like, okay. So I prepared, I got everything ready to go. And when she walked in the room, I said, it's totally okay. I am really looking forward to this conversation. I told her it was the first day of the rest of my life. And she started crying, and she's like, how is this so easy? And I'm like, because I basically said, you're giving me a get out of jail free card. I had a large team all over the country. I would have never left them. I would have never left the work I was doing on my own, because I thought my life was supposed to be about everyone I was working with, or the nonprofits I was raising money for, that they were the most important priority. So that day shifted everything because I became the most important priority, and it was amazing.
Oh, I love the way you just said that.
Mm-hmm. So I was, the first 30 days I took off. I did yoga every day. It was just such a release. I had to release 20 years of burnout. And I thought, okay, after that, I'm ready to go, but it really wasn't. So it took me almost 4 years of this journey I've been on to get me to a place where I'm beyond that 20 years of burnout. It's really kind of sad, but I'm so grateful for the last 4 years and the things that happened in that time frame.
That is amazing because didn't you at one point, going back to what you said about, flying a bunch of miles, didn't you at one point do like an end of year mileage run to Japan?
I did. Spent one night in Tokyo and came right back and celebrated New Year's Eve in Austin.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is wild too, because when you have a career that you have dedicated your life to, I mean, I think that, what people often don't recognize or don't realize when choosing a career or going into doing something. It's like you're going to be spending a very significant portion of your days and weeks and months and years doing this. So it's like it's very, you know, beneficial and smart to try to find something where you like what you're doing and you like the people that you're doing it with. Because
Yes.
aside from sleeping, like that's what you're doing the most of
I
is
completely
work.
agree.
And then having that longevity in a certain career, and I can totally relate to feeling that sense of responsibility to the people, to the work, to the clients, to all of the things. And so you telling your boss like, hey, you're giving me this gift because I wouldn't have probably done this on my own, at least not right now.
No, definitely is. It was a gift I'm so grateful for. And then that was 2018, 2 years later, COVID happened. And that in itself was a gift as well, because the amount I didn't slow down, that forced the rest of the slowdown. So that was really
Mm.
good for me. I believe that the shift in my life was able to really be accelerated during that time frame. So I shifted from being an employee to an entrepreneur. I shifted from all of my impact in the world being focused on the nonprofits I was supporting to focusing on what I can do to make an impact on the world. My priority went from others to me. And then the other thing that I thought was really important was that I lived in a scarcity mindset for so long, and my mind
Oh,
have shifted to abundance. And
yeah.
that took the last 4 years to do that. But I feel like I've done a lot of personal development work, a lot of mindfulness to get where I am, to make all those shifts. It's been a
Mhm.
good journey, and I'm excited to share some of it with you guys today.
Oh, I love that too, because I think that that is so important. It's something that my boss and I actually have. It probably pops into our conversation at least once a month, that whole scarcity versus abundance. And it plays a big role in how he and I both manage people. And just when you're having conversations with people and seeing the way they're telling you about things, it's like, well, wait a minute, like let's shift that. Like let's be optimistic. Let's not worry about those things.
Mhm.
Let's just go for it from this level instead of from like a low level. Let's go to it from a high level. Let's go to it knowing we can accomplish these goals, versus being scared that we won't.
Right. And that once you make that shift, everything in your life changes. And I started reading a lot of professional development books when I got laid off. And I started, my first book was called The Champagne Diet. And it's funny, as I was on Amazon searching for champagne glasses, and this book came up, and I was like, a book about female empowerment and entrepreneurs. And I ordered it. I didn't, and when I got it, the author is Kara Alwell. Halfway through the book, I was hooked. I ordered her next book. She wrote 9. I read them all.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then it just set me on a journey of, through her, I met a money mindset coach, and I learned and I focused on mindset around money, and what a difference it made. Working in a nonprofit, you learn to live up, make every dollar count. And you're in constant scarcity mode of not spending and trying to raise money as much as possible. But then that sprinkled into everything in my life.
Mhm.
So going through courses on money mindset helped me understand how to live a more abundant life with money as well.
Yeah.
And so that then triggered and lots more learning over the course of the next couple of years. But the learning was all focused on me and to make myself a better person, so I can be better for others.
Right. And I love that. I mean, I'm probably going to say I love that a million times right now, because it is so true. And it's something that I've talked about with other folks that have been on this podcast with me. Is it's like, if you don't take care of yourself,
Mhm.
you can't be your best for other people.
No.
And it's so important. That's why I will say this over and over, like I'm beating a dead horse. But it's like, if you being selfish is not a bad thing. Like taking care of yourself, having your house in order, like some people like to refer to it as, is like you do all of those things so you can better yourself in the long run and then be better for everything else. Like I know if I don't do certain things for my daily, personal like health and taking care of myself routine, I am not the best leader. I'm not the best daughter. I'm not the best friend. But when I'm keeping myself in order, then I am better for everyone else.
Totally agree. And it takes work. It takes maintenance every single day. It's not like, okay, I can meditate today and that's going to last me the rest of my life. You have
Right.
I read the book I read last week was Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh, it's
Another amazing book. I loved, and he's like, you just need to improve your life 1% every day.
mm-hmm.
And if you just focus on that one, not like you said when we were talking earlier about so many people struggle with diets and workouts because they want this large amount of results right away. But
Right.
if you just focus on little increments every single day, you're going to have a much better outcome.
I think the power of consistency isn't talked about enough,
Mm-hmm.
and being consistent with anything, whether you're learning something new, whether you're deciding that you want to have more physical activity, whether you're changing the way you eat. I mean, I often tell people who want to change their eating habits, and they think they have to go from like 0 to 60. And I'm like, okay, that's a recipe for failure. I'm like, start here. Like, first, like, what do you drink every day? And if they're like, oh, I drink a lot of soda. Okay, just swap that for water. Just literally just take 2 weeks and just only drink water and like coffee in the morning, and like see what happens. Like the little things. And if you want to add on like physical stuff, if you're doing nothing physical, go for a walk at night after dinner. Just 30 minutes. Go for a 30-minute walk. Do those 2 things to start, and then see where you are. But don't think that you can go from no physical activity, eating very, not healthy and probably too much, to restricting yourself to like 1,200 calories and eating vegetables and like going on these thinking you're going to become like a elite athlete, all at once. Like, it's not going to happen.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And it's not good, but it's been an incredible journey to be able to have the opportunity to focus on myself and figure out what I need and want. And we were talking about work before, and in this time frame, I started a tour company, and then COVID happened, it shut down. And then during that time, I started it for someone else. I became the owner during COVID, and I restarted after COVID. And I realized I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. This was his passion. I shut it down after one day. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. I started another company. I started building an event planning app, which we've talked about before. And I loved that. I went through an accelerator program. I learned how to build the business plan, but then I realized I want to focus on the why, not the how. So I set that aside. But at first I was so ashamed of all the, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
It's to finding what we really are most passionate about in life. And sometimes you got to start things and finish them, or set them aside to really get to where you want to go. But that you have to go through the process and be consistent of trying to find what it is that you need to find. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I was reading something the other day, and I think, I'm not 100%, but I think it was talking about, it was Edison that created the light bulb, right?
I think so. Oh yeah.
And
it's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. And it was talking about like all the things, all the other patents that he had, but it was also like how his view on failure, which was like, I didn't fail. I just learned 10,000 reasons why something won't work. And I was oh my God, I love that, because, we learn so much more from our failures. I mean, success is great, and the feeling of working hard for something and accomplishing it is wonderful. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love those feelings. But also when you fail, it's like, oh, okay, now I know which direction we need to go, or now I get why that doesn't work. And that is like the ultimate teacher.
Oh, I love that quote. And then the second one I always share after that one is Michael Jordan got cut from the high school basketball team.
Right.
I mean, and then he came out to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time, because that failure gave him the drive to become better and to work harder every single day. I love that.
Yeah. I think one of the other things I love too is like somebody put together a list of people where it's like, so-and-so didn't do this until 40. So-and-so didn't do this until like 58. So-and-so didn't do this until 60. And I'm like, yes, like it's never too late. And also, I think I said this when I was recording just by myself last week, like nobody fucking cares like what anybody else is doing. So it's like, just do it. You kind of mentioned like, oh, I felt this way or that way when I was like, oh, this didn't, or I'm not doing this anymore. I tried this and I'm not doing that. But like, no one fucking cares. Like, no. Okay, so just keep going until you find something that you love and that works.
Yes. And I had to get over all that. Like, we naturally have what's it called? Imposter syndrome, or fear of failure, or afraid to get started. Like we were talking earlier, I bought all this podcast equipment. I created my name. I have all the artwork done, but I've been afraid to pull the Band-Aid off. And I've now set myself up so that I'm here with you today, and you're going to be here with me in a couple of weeks. And there's no more pause. There's no more waiting. There's no more limiting all the impact that I can make in the world. Is I just have to get going and then be
Mhm.
consistent.
Well, and I think too, like for me, like I've said that, it was getting out of my own way and it was just doing it. And I think that it's so easy to get in our own way with anything, right? Whether it's something with work or whether it's something you want to do on your own, or if it's, something physical, or if it's in relationship, whatever it is, it's so easy to get in our own way about different things. And I know, I mean, I physically felt it, even though I know I can't literally stand in my own way, but like I physically now feel that I have gotten out of my own way. So it's like, and I feel that in every aspect of my life, which is very fascinating, to actually feel it. I never thought that I would feel that.
There's a sense of freedom. I think when people ask me what my long-term goals in life are, it's freedom. I want to be free from, I mean, financially free flexibility in my life. I want all these things, but it all goes back to the freedom. And it's amazing when you think about that in
Mhm.
every aspect of your life. Once you get rid of all those barriers, you have an overwhelming sense of freedom.
Yeah. Well, think about even just what you guys have been doing this year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have that freedom to move. I mean, you lived in 3 different states, 4 different states, and you've done all these things while you're figuring out what you want for your life and your lifestyle, and still been able to work and create business and do all of those things, which is like very freeing.
Well, I was trying to figure out what's the biggest benefit of what we've done this year. So we rent, instead of living in a van, or how a lot of people do it, we rented short-term rentals, so Airbnb, and for each location. So we had to live within what was provided in the house. We only packed the back of our truck with our favorite coffee maker. I brought my favorite champagne glasses, but that very minimal what we brought with us. And so then we realized we have a giant storage unit at home of stuff that we haven't seen in 9 months that we probably will never use again. So
Yeah.
our first thing to do when we get home is clear that out, get rid of the things that we found that we didn't need.
Hmm.
And we made the decision we really want to fill our life with experiences, not stuff.
Hmm.
Like it's definitely contributed to having a more minimal life. There are some things I miss. I miss all my decorations. I love celebrating the holidays and decorating for the holidays. And so not having a place to do that, I had to get creative. For Halloween, I bought some white pumpkins that were
Uh-huh.
disposable at the end of the season. So it was a way to close that gap. But I think living a minimalist life has been another form of freedom.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, and it
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. I mean, it is. At the end of the day, it's stuff. And, it's like, I think my friend Trisha and I talked, I think she was my third or fourth episode, or maybe fifth. Anyways, that's irrelevant. But she had lost everything in a fire in Santa
Yeah.
Rosa. And she was talking about the same thing. Like, there are some things that they are very sad that they lost. She's like, but ultimately it was stuff. It's all stuff. And it's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we want to make our homes like comfortable, and you want to feel good, and you want to feel like you can relax and have all of feel like you can let go and de-stress inside of it. But it doesn't have to be loaded with stuff in order to
No.
make that happen.
And there are ways to digitize memories. We estimate 20 or 30 boxes in our storage unit are our childhoods. We both have
Oh.
taken on all our childhood stuff and photographs and everything else. So my project over the next couple of months is to get all of that in a digital format. And there's a company called Saver. They're like notebooks I can buy, and I'm going to have just one book that kind of gathers all of those mementos, because memories are an important thing, but I want to digitalize as much as possible so that if a fire did happen, we can still access all those things and they don't take up space, and we can
Yeah.
access them from anywhere.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Mhm.
great. So what would you say, so you get laid off and then you're kind of doing
Mhm.
these like different, you're taking some time for yourself and then getting involved in other things. So then what are these like kind of moments you've had along the way where you're really becoming more self-aware, having these aha moments where you're like, "Oh, I want to do this or I want to do that," and like deciding what things you needed to focus on within yourself.
So I would say first, I immediately launched myself into a couple other projects without taking the time to heal. And so when that was from 2018 to 2020. So then when COVID happened and I was forced to have all this downtime, I took that time and then focused all on the healing on the inside. So that's where the professional development went. I did some coaching programs. I went to a retreat last year in Malibu, which was all focused on that movement from scarcity to abundance. And I think that by taking that time, a lot of writing, a lot of journaling, a lot of mindfulness, and I think being given the opportunity to take that time and heal some things from my childhood. During that time, my mom did pass away, and that triggered a whole lot of healing there too. And so I think that second round of me, I had to focus on all that healing first, and before I could launch my second round. And I recently met with someone who spoke to me in May or probably June of 2018. And then we spoke again a month ago, and she was like, "Oh my God, you did the work. I can see it." And I was like, "Yes, like I did the work." And it's not something I can share with a lot of people because a lot of people don't understand. Well, what have you been doing the last couple of years? I've been working on myself. Well, if they don't see a physical difference, which I have had some physical difference, during that time, but they don't see how much work you've done on the inside. It's hard to explain it. And so that now that I did the work, everything else just seems to be coming easy to me. So one thing I'm very proud of that's I had never had a dog because I worked all the time and I didn't understand I would never gonna have time. No, there's no space in my life for a dog. And so I fostered a dog. A friend's family needed some help with their dog. And so I brought her in and fell in love with her. And when she was time for her to go back to her family, I got my own dog. And this is crazy. You obviously love your dog. I didn't understand what kind of love you can have for a pet until I had one. But what's even more exciting about that is when I opened myself up to that, it then enabled me to open myself up to other kind of love. So I'm now in a relationship with a friend who I met at that incredible apartment building you came to visit. He was my neighbor.
Nice.
We met when he moved in, and then we were friends for a couple of years, and now we're more than friends. But it was getting the dog, I think, that made that shift by allowing myself to open my life to her, then just allowed so much other amazingness to come into my life. And so I say that all the time, and people were like, "What, really, a dog?" But sometimes it's something as simple as that can teach you unconditional love and what it's like to give and receive. I mean, you receive so much from your relationship with the dog, and that's probably why she's overspoiled. It's because she brought so much amazingness into my life. And so now the three of us have our own little family. So that was a benefit of taking the time to work on myself and having all that space. And that's what mindfulness is in general. When you give your brain space, then all this other stuff, amazingness, comes out of it. Do you meditate?
I try. I would say I go in waves, and I know I can be better. It is on my short-term goal list too. I mean, what's great too that I love is that, there's so many of these apps. Like I use the Peloton app for a lot of things, and they have just 5-minute ones. So I try to do those and just kind of like, okay, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. But I would like to get better. My dad actually has turned into a big fan of meditation, and I think it's really, really great. I mean, given that, he's 76 years old, and he's shared a few things with me about how he feels it's changed his outlook, and I think it's pretty cool to have that sense of awareness at that age, and then also like the level of like vulnerability and being able to share like, hey, like I started doing this on a regular basis, and this is how it changed my like levels of being sensitive, or him, like the way he feels like he's able to connect with my mom differently because he's been meditating, and it's opened him up differently. And I'm like, that's so cool.
But like everything else, it's just 1% better every day. I still don't do it every day. I want to do it every day. It's always on my goal to do it every day. I know that if I'm overwhelmed, I just know I need to go for a walk and turn on a meditation and shut my brain down. Or when I need to get something done and I'm distracted, I just pause. And the investment of 10 minutes of letting my brain take a break I'll be 10 times more productive afterwards. So it doesn't have to be something that you do every day. You can just find times in your life that you can integrate it and just turn it on. I have like multiple, like the Peloton app is on my phone. I use Calm for daily.
Mhm.
Um, and all of them are guided. They talk to you the whole time. It's not sitting in silence. And then there's like
Yeah.
a guy named Sam Harris. I love his waking up app because his is more science for, and like you feel like an engineering, and he teaches you the basics. And if your brain works that way, my brain goes half and half. Some of it's creative and some of it's more logical. And
Mhm.
so I like having both options too when it comes to meditating.
Oh,
So
I
yes, I
like that.
highly
I'll need to
recommend
check
that.
that out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I have heard, I can't remember where I heard this, probably from some quick TikTok video, but it was somebody talking about how those first few seconds when you first wake up, your brain is in a certain state where it's like you shouldn't grab your phone right away. And you should, really start to think about like positive affirmations or just like what you want to accomplish, like setting your intentions for the day in those moments. So then your brain goes into that mode versus going into like immediate chaos mode if you open up your email and you see something that's going to, make your day not go the way you had hoped.
And I would say not bringing my phone into the bedroom is probably one of the best habits that I've integrated in my life because I don't immediately look at it in the morning. I
Yeah.
wake up, I get moving, I think about my day, I spend that time, and then I get some caffeine, and
Mhm.
then I look at my phone, and that really does make a difference. And
Mhm.
that would be one of the best practices I have definitely integrated into my life
I
too.
need to figure out a way to do that. I think well, number one, I set my alarm on the away setting at night because it makes my motion sensor downtown or downstairs activate and it makes me feel safer. So I need my phone to turn off the alarm so I can go downstairs and get my coffee.
Mhm.
So although there have been times where I forgot that the alarm was on and I've gone downstairs and set it off and then quickly turned it off. But I don't want to start
Yes.
the day that way every day.
Well,
Um,
and
yeah,
crazy idea is to get a second device. So
yeah.
that has that just on there that you can just turn it on, and it doesn't have, or just have your messages and your email and everything turned off. If you have to put your phone right outside your bedroom door, pick it up, turn off the alarm, and then set the phone back down.
I started using the do not disturb
Oh
feature,
yeah.
which I think has been really good for me. I put that on and then I don't know. There's something about it that I think it's probably like while I'm still awake or if I'm reading before I go to sleep, where because I don't like hear the buzz or see it light up with like any sort of notification. And I have very few notifications that even hit my phone because I just don't care enough like about a lot of things to have it be an immediate
Mhm.
notification. But I have noticed that keeps me less picking it up. Like I put it on do
Mhm.
not disturb, put it down, and then I'm like, all right, I'll see that phone in the morning.
Yeah, I do like that. And then not looking at it before you go to bed. All the experts out there will say the same thing. Give
Hmm.
your mind at least a half an hour away from blue light and screens to kind
Hmm.
of slow yourself down. So it helps your sleep habits too.
Yeah. I want to go back to
Mhm.
what you were saying
Oh,
about pet love
oh
because
yes.
I mean, obviously anybody who's listening to this who knows me knows that I'm absolutely obsessed with my dog Norm. But the funny thing that not a lot of people who have known me since getting Norm is that prior to that, like I would literally say on a regular basis that I hate animals. Like I would literally say that. And what I've since realized is that it wasn't the animals that I hated. It was more that like maybe they were improperly trained and or they were dirty and like a big dirty dog coming along and just like wiping their body across your outfit. Like that was not something I enjoyed. I didn't want to give it attention. However, even getting Norm was kind of just one of those like serendipitous domino of like things that happened where he was totally meant to be mine or ours since I do still share him with Chris, my ex-husband. But he and I had been together for I think about maybe almost 2 years at the time. And we had talked about getting a dog. And I had always had a thing for little dogs. Like I loved Yorkies. There were some kind of like Chihuahua mixes that I always thought were cute. I just wanted it to be cute. And he had always had a bigger, interest in larger dogs. I mean, makes sense. He was around labs and other type or retrievers his whole life. And so, anyway, I happened to have plans to go to Oakland. My friend Katie was living in Oakland, and to go to this event with her one night in November of 2010. So I get there and she's like, oh my God. She's like, look at this dog that one of her friends had received a notification from Adopt a Pet that this dog was available for adoption. She's like, look how cute he is. He's so cute. Like somebody we know has to get him. Well, the one small dog that Chris and I had agreed on at the time was a French Bulldog. And this ad for Norm said that he was a Chihuahua French Bulldog mix. And so I was like, oh my God, that dog is so cute. Maybe I should get him. And so then fast forward, we go out, we're drinking a ton of wine. And collectively, the group we were out with was like, Nikki's going to get this dog tomorrow. So Katie and I got up, we went and had brunch. He was at a shelter in San Jose. I called the shelter. They weren't open, but somehow I was able to like route myself to animal control where somebody at the shelter picked up the phone. And I said, hey, you guys have this dog that you said was going to be up for adoption today. Like here's his like tag number or whatever. Can you tell me, is he still available? And the guy said, yeah, he is, but like the shelter doesn't open till noon. We can't hold any pets. So you just really would have to get here. And if he's still available when you get here, then you can see him and blah, blah, blah. So we raced down to San Jose Animal Shelter. We get there and there were so many people. I think they were having like a special on cats that weekend where, sometimes they do cats adoption if they're really full for like really, really inexpensive or free. And we literally had to take a ticket from one of those ticket pull things like at 31 Flavors. So we take a ticket and we're like, okay, we'll wait till our number's called. And we're walking through the shelter and like all the little windows and seeing all these animals. And it was just cats everywhere. There were hardly any dogs. So we didn't see him. So my number gets called. We go and sit down and the guy's like, ask, and I say, this is the only animal I'm interested in, like this one from this ad. And so he pulls up and he's like, yeah, that dog's still available. And I'm like, great. So they take all of my info. We go into this room and it's two women and they bring him in and he's just kind of like, trotting around and looking all cute and he didn't bark at all. And he just kind of sniffed and was really chill. And so they're asking me all these questions and Katie is just sitting there terrified that I'm going to somehow say, oh, don't worry, I hate animals. I would never do whatever you're advising me not to do, because they literally said something about like, oh, well, he's going to have more like shots. Like he's, we give him the first round, but then you're going to have to take him to the vet and he's going to have to get a couple more rounds of shots before he should be around other dogs. So you shouldn't take him to a dog park. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, a dog park sounds like my worst nightmare. But, and I was like, oh, okay, no worries. So thankfully we got in and out of there. And then the lady was like, well, if you would like to adopt him, like we think you guys would be a good fit. So I remember leaving there and it was so awkward. I didn't know how to hold him. I didn't know how to pick him up. I didn't know what to do. We went to PetSmart to get like water bowls and a leash and a collar. But then, he's just, I always tell people now, I literally tell him every single day how much I love him, how cute I think he is. And it's like, we just passed the 12-year mark that this dog has been a part of our lives. And it's like I walk in the door and he's here and he's happy. And it's like, even if I'm in the worst mood, it's like, how can you be in a bad mood when this little furry thing just like wants to love you?
Well, I think I said we wouldn't have world peace if everyone in the world had a dog like that. Like they give you so much love and that wagging of their tail and, and my dog, if I've had a bad day or something bad happened, she knows. She doesn't leave my side. Yeah. She's just like, they're intuitive. They're an extension of you in so many ways. And they teach you love and they make everything in your life better. So
everything better. And they're just so funny.
And I was that way too.
I think that's really,
no one thought I would ever get a dog. They're like, you're the last person should ever get a dog.
Yeah. No, when Facebook reminds me, that I had posted a picture being like, guess what? With the dog, like half my friends were like, no way. Like, this is a joke. I remember my phone go like just one call after the other as I was driving back from Oakland to Sacramento. And people were like, oh, you didn't really get a dog, right? You didn't really get a dog, right? And I'm like, no, I really did. Even Chris didn't believe me. Like I called him and he's like, why aren't you back yet? What have you guys been doing? And I was like, we went shopping. And he's like, shopping? He was like, what did you get me? A dog? Haha. And I was like, actually. And what was funny too, that was back in 2010 when, you couldn't send a photo if you were on the phone with somebody at the same time.
Uh,
So I literally had to tell him, I'm like, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to text you a picture right now. And he was just like, he called me back. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe you got a dog. And I'm like, yep, be home in a few hours.
and he embraced the small dog.
Oh yeah, he's obsessed with him. I mean, Norm literally lives his best life. I mean, we joke in our family that he has like 3 houses because he goes to my parents as well. So he's got his 3 houses that he absolutely runs the roost on. I mean, I would even like venture to say he has more than that because there are a couple of my friends' places that he is welcome at 100% of the time. And yeah, I mean, he comes to work with me. He goes to work with Chris. There's a coffee shop in the town over from where Chris lives who like Norm's literally like a local celebrity. I mean, more people know the dog's name than my name. I mean, yeah, this dog is king everywhere he goes.
So our message to everyone listening is if you don't have a dog, get one.
Get one.
You will not regret it.
You will not
Not
regret.
regret it. It is the best. They are the best and life-changing. So yeah, so that was one of the biggest things that probably a positive of my second round was I had time to let a dog in my life. And then it opened up so many other things.
So do you think from a relationship perspective, like was your current relationship, your boyfriend, like was he somebody that you had ever like entertained the idea of dating? Or were you so focused on work and your life that you just weren't really looking at men in that way that you were just kind of like so tunnel vision on your career?
I would say I was tunnel vision on my career, but a lot of it more had to do that I hadn't done the healing.
Yeah.
And I think I needed to do that just as much as and I was obsessed with my career because I was avoiding all the inner work that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had 40 years of baggage to work through the last couple of years, and you don't realize how much your childhood and the things that have happened throughout your life impact the rest of your life if you've not taken the time to process it and really heal it. So I think it's a combo.
That is so interesting that you say that because one of my girlfriends brought up childhood stuff the other day because we were talking about friendship, and she had said how she realized that some of her reactions to certain things with friends, she finally realized was a result of she figured out what it was a result of from her past. Mm-hmm. And so she was saying to me, she was like, I would encourage you to try to like think about some of this and like why. She goes, because this isn't the first time I've heard you say this type of comment in regards to friendship. She's like, so I wonder, is there something like from your childhood and the friendships that you had then that's making you feel this way now? And she's like, and don't get me wrong, she goes, just because you like recognize it doesn't mean that it's going to change anything, but at least you now know. She's like, because I now know that like, oh, I react this way because of this. Mm-hmm. So it's just another level of self-awareness, which I think is just my favorite thing about this podcast is that that's like the underlying current that just connects all of these conversations to one another. But so that was funny that she said that because the other day I had this memory and it had nothing to do with friendship, but it had to do with like relationship stuff. And I was thinking to myself, my God, I don't know when the last time I thought about this occurrence was, and it's something that happened when I was 15. And I don't know that I ever thought about it after the fact. It was just kind of like, I just kept moving on. And so it is interesting how sometimes I'm like, oh, am I really upset about this? Or am I processing something from like 15 years ago or not even 15 years ago, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
And once you start to figure that out and you piece it all together, it's really amazing. It doesn't have to bring you down and to figure out what happened there, relive it, think about it and how it's impacted. It just makes it easier to not let it impact you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So oh, this, like your friend said, this is why I react this way.
Yeah.
And you can stop that reaction once you've figured it out.
Yeah.
Gabby Bernstein just wrote a really good book. I was going to say it's something about being happy. And she encouraged a lot of writing in the book. And it unleashed so many things I hadn't thought about. And it doesn't mean your child had to have been traumatic. It could, like
Mhm.
you said, it was something that happened to you when you were 15 and you didn't think of twice about it. And there's a lot of us have those one instance or multiple instances that have impacted years of relationships and they don't even think about it. They don't
Yeah.
realize why.
Yeah, it
I
is.
haven't done the inner child work yet, but there's a lot of it out there and it's on my wish list in terms of what to do next in personal development.
I feel like I'm seeing it more and more lately. I don't know if it's one of those things where you know how like there's always like you never thought about buying a blue Volvo and then you buy a blue Volvo and now all of a sudden you see blue Volvos everywhere. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I wonder, is it one of those things where like the idea got planted in my head and now I'm just seeing it and it's like popping up on all of my social channels where people are doing that type of work. I don't know.
Have you ever done breath work?
I have done like, periodic, classes here and there, but it's never
Yeah.
been something I've done consistently.
Yeah. That's another one that I feel like I've seen and I don't want to, I've got to do it virtually and then I've done it in person recently and it was amazing. I'm like, oh, okay, how do I keep this in my life now too?
Hmm.
But the reality is there are thousands of options out there. It's just figuring out what makes the greatest impact on you. So whether it's meditating or it's breath work or it's working out or it's spending time with friends and family, whatever gives you that peace of mind and brings joy to your life, do that. Not what you're being distracted by all the bells and whistles of, ooh, I haven't done inner child work, so I'm going to do that. Or I need to become the world's greatest meditator. It all goes back to that conversation about how we want all these radical results all at
Yeah.
once, but it's that small shift every day that we should make. I think makes
Well,
all the
and then
difference.
taking the time and giving yourself the grace to figure out what works for you,
Mhm.
because that's the other thing where you see all of these people out there who are doing all these different things like you just said, whether it's like meditation, whether it's breathwork, whether it's yoga, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's eating a certain way or doing all these different things, and they've taken the time to figure out what works for them, so then they're talking about it. But just because that worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for me.
Mhm.
So that's why I say it's like giving yourself the time and also the grace to try something and go, wow, this isn't going to work for me. Or and then not getting frustrated and just throwing in the towel completely because it
Mhm.
didn't work. It's like, okay, well that didn't work, so I can check it off the list and now like let's try this or let's try that.
Well, and that's going back to the whole theme of this podcast is second round, but we can have third,
Yeah,
fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounds. Like
absolutely.
there's no one stopping you from starting something, figuring out you don't like it, and trying something new. And the more you fail, the better.
100%. I mean, I remember back in, I think it was like 2006, I decided to give being vegan a go.
Uh-huh.
And it was so not good for me. I think because just my body naturally craves like animal protein. And I remember and the reason I did it, I didn't do it because I was like, oh, animals, or I hadn't like seen anything that had, made me want to do, a lot of reasons why some people decide to go vegan. I was doing it for weight loss. I was like, oh, I heard if you go vegan, you get really skinny. Well, it had the opposite effect on me, where I think because I was so hungry because I wasn't getting the animal like nutrients that my body naturally craves, I was eating too much of all the other things. And
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, it did not serve me well. And I remember, having a couple of friends like would periodically joke after the fact, like, remember when you went vegan to try to get skinny and you ended up gaining weight? I'm like, I know.
Yeah,
So
but you tried it and you
I
should feel
tried
great about
it.
that.
Yeah. And it's like, and
Yeah.
now I know, like, hey, like, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So I guess in like just in summary, what my event that triggered my layoff and then COVID triggered was an opportunity to just focus on me and figure out and have that fun of experimenting and trying different things and then creating this journey that I'm on now. Does that
So
make
then
sense?
what it makes perfect sense. And I love it because you were at a place in your life where it sounded like you actually really needed it, but like you said, you weren't going to take that step for yourself, at least not then.
Mm-mm.
And now, I mean, I I think self-discovery is so important. Self-awareness is so important. I mean, I joke around. I mean, I've joked around on this podcast and I laugh at myself on a regular basis where I'm always like, oh, well, what can I learn from this? What's the silver lining of this? And sometimes it's like, okay, well, maybe there isn't something, but I do feel that there always is, no matter how bad or how shitty you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get through those initial, like, oh, my feelings are hurt, or this made me feel like shit, or I'm sad, or what, angry, or whatever it is, you can really take those learnings and apply them to whatever you're doing next. And it really can change you for the better if you're willing to look for those. And I think that forgiveness plays a role in some of those things,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's forgiving yourself for being a certain way, whether it's forgiving another person for hurting your feelings. I think that's super, super important to acknowledge.
And you can see those that did the work and didn't. So the people, and it breaks my heart when people that live in victim mentality all the time, like, oh, I had a horrible child life, so the rest of my life is screwed. No, you had a horrible child life. Okay, what did you learn from that? What can you do to do better?
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell the difference in people, that those that recognize that it was a learning experience, or what the positives, no matter how hard they are to find. We have two totally different lives in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all of this, self learning, self healing, focusing on you over the last 4 years, what is 2023 going to look like for you?
I'm excited. So I've moved into, instead of working for others, working for myself, and I'm doing a lot of work around celebrating. And so I'm consulting, I'm coaching. I got a lot of life coaching the last couple of years, and then I took courses on how to do it back. I want to teach people the art of celebrating themselves and others, and focusing on the why, not the how. And so I've been working on it for a while, and I have realized that procrastination or imposter syndrome, all those things. So I've reached out and I've identified accountability partners to get done what I need to get done.
Mm.
So there's a lot I've been working on for a long time so for example, I have a beautiful website, but I need to get it live. I've done all the work for it. So I have a VIP day coming up in 2 weeks where I'm going to work with a developer to make it live that day. So
Awesome.
I've recognized my weaknesses,
Mm.
and my weaknesses is getting stuff done for myself. So I've set myself up for the next couple of weeks so that I have all the resources that I've been working on ready to share with others. And it's been fun. I've taken on a few consulting projects the last couple of weeks. And then I'm really looking forward to doing more coaching and consulting in the new year,
Nice.
while we continue to travel. So
Yeah.
we're going to go back to Texas in 2 weeks. We'll be back in Colorado in the spring. And then my personal goal, I think I was saying earlier, I'm going to go to New York. We're going to do some international travel, just continuing to see the rest of the world. I would say that one of the biggest shifts in travel that's happened in these last 4 years is wanting to be outdoors. I had been to Utah 100 times, not 100, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Never went to a national park.
Mm.
During COVID, my family and I met in Utah. They drove from California. I drove from Texas. We went and stayed at National Park Zion, and that was a game changer. And now I just want to travel and experience the world's natural beauty too.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
that's why I think we'll end up in Colorado when we're all said and done, because right now we live amongst the most beautiful mountains and trees, and it's so good for your soul to get up and be able to walk outside
Uh-huh.
in this environment. So it's all been kind of part of the process, is
That's
where
great.
the physical environment of where I'm at too.
Uh-huh. I liked what you said about your having accountability partners. Excuse me. I'm reading this book right now that I'm absolutely obsessed with. It's called The Power of One More. It's by Ed Milet.
Mm-hmm.
I am every chapter of this book, I'm just like continually just like, oh my God, this is so good. And when he's talking, I just finished a chapter last night where he's talking about goal setting and how you have to tell somebody your goals. You have to like talk about them, and even just talking about the way you create the goals. And one of the things that I love so much, because it's a practice that I do a lot, is he's talking about like getting the energy in your body moving as you're like thinking about these goals, because you want to create them when you're in your peak state. And I love that, because I know for me, if I have something really hard that I need to figure out, like I need to be in motion in order to get where I eventually know I can. So I'm all the time, I'll be out for a walk and I'm like, voice notes to different people and, hey, like, here's what I'm thinking about this. And so it's funny because I've taken to reading a lot on my Kindle, but I just ordered the book and it's like hard format, because I want to, number one, I feel like it's a book I'm going to continue referring to for the rest of my life, because I think it's that powerful. But also because I want to be able to like highlight things and take notes and, and I think I ordered like 4 copies, because I'm like, I know so many people who need to read this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of books on audiobook and then buy physical so that I can go back and do any of the workbooks that they have in them.
Mhm.
I love, it's called Remarkable. It's a digital tablet I use.
Oh yeah.
And so what I've done there is a lot of these books, I'm sure I haven't read that one yet, but now I'm just going to be bumped up on the list because I heard
Oh,
lots of great
you
things
will
about
love it.
it.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, if you buy them, they'll come with a workbook so that they help you work through a lot of the things that they're teaching in your book. And I just upload them into this tablet and I write and I do all the work that way. And
Oh, that's cool.
it's been a good tool for me, but there are some things that I just need a little bit more help with, and that's okay. And there are people out there that are available to help.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And I think, one of the chapters in this book also it talks about, and I've heard this for years. Like, have you ever heard that saying where it says like you're the sum of the 5 people that that you spend the most time with? And he talks about that in here too, where like, if you who you're surrounding yourself with. And that was a really interesting thing for me to read about, because I've been kind of at a place where I stopped putting an effort with people that were not putting an effort to me. And it's interesting because, on one hand, it's kind of like, okay, well, that makes sense, right? Like when you say that sentence out loud, like that makes sense. But it also kind of sucks, because then you're like, wow, I don't have that many friends left when, like 3 of the 7 it was so out of balance that, when I did this experiment of, well, if I stop reaching out to this person, are they going to reach out to me? And then when the answer's been no, it's like, oh shit. Okay. So it's like, this wasn't what I thought it was. And I went to Las Vegas on Monday. One of my friends is doing these 1-day wellness retreats. She's a consultant and a designer for the spa space, and she's been in the, hospitality for years. And so she had this idea to do 1-day wellness retreats and kind of focus it just on like people that can't uproot or stop their whole lives for a week or even a long weekend. And so she and I were chatting about some of the same stuff at the end of the day. And she made a comment that I have like not stopped thinking about ever since Tuesday night when I got home. And she said, I realize that some of my friends, I get so excited when we're going to spend time together. And then she's like, and I realize that I have other people where I don't feel that way. And and she said, I thought to myself, I want to feel that way with anybody I'm giving my time to. I want to be so excited that we're going to meet up for drinks, or so excited that we're going to go on vacation together. And so that has been just running through my head all week as I'm, interacting with different people and going, wow, am I that excited to hang out with this person? And if the answer is no, it's kind of like, huh, all right, what does that mean?
Mel Robbins, you know who she is, the 54321. I love her and her 5 She listened to one of her podcasts once, and she explained friendships like leaves on a tree, and they have seasons and they change. And just because you're not excited about them right now doesn't mean that your friendship is any less valuable than it in the past that you had together, or there might be a time in the future where you will be excited about them. And I think so many of us are so afraid to hurt our friends' feelings because we have an obligation to the friendship, and that doesn't have to be the case. Like they
Yeah.
change, season changes and friendships change, and as your life changes. And I think one of the hardest things for me, and probably for you too, is the more work we do on ourselves and the more we expand all these things in our life, the people in our lives that aren't doing the same, they don't get it.
Right.
And it creates barriers, and that's okay. It's like you said, they're just seasons that will change and they'll come and go in your life. And most people are afraid to let that happen. So they don't only surround themselves with those 5 people
Mm-hmm.
that are the best for them at that moment.
Yeah, and like I love what you said about that because it's so true because like we're all changing and growing at different rates and at different times and different things. And I think there's some saying that like people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, some of those seasons can be really, really long, 13, 15, 20 years. And then maybe it's like, okay, well, we're not on the same path anymore. But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, I mean, and I certainly don't feel like anything or any of the friendships where I was like, okay, this isn't, I'm the only one putting in effort here. I mean, I'm not looking backwards and saying like, oh, well, what was the point of all that? It's like, no, like that was all great, but like now I'm here and either meet me here or put in some sort of effort. But, it is I feel like I've had a lot of humbling moments this year where it's like, huh, all right then, you know?
And
So
they're failures you learn from, or not failures, but are
totally.
all learning
They're
experiences.
all learning experiences.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
it is
So,
interesting. And I mean, I'm at least glad that I have like the comfort or the comfort level within my own self to like look at a situation and be like, huh, well, that was kind of humbling. All right.
yeah.
And
And
then
your
laugh
quality of
about
your
it.
and life just gets better. I said to my boyfriend that the best is yet to come for us. Like, we're living Benjamin Button lifestyle. Like, as we get older and our life just seems to be getting better every day. And we
Yeah.
should all feel that way. I wish everyone could feel that way and
Yeah.
not looking back.
Not look, yeah, don't. I mean, there's no point. It's funny because I remember saying this when I was getting divorced. I was, what was I, 38, 39. And I remember saying to somebody, as bizarre as this may sound, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I recognize that it would be very easy for me at this age going through this to say, to be angry and have regrets and all this different thing. But I was like, there's no point. And I don't. I mean, the biggest thing with getting a divorce and being the one who wanted it is that I hurt someone else. And I would,
Mhm.
that's the thing that, I still have moments where I'm like, God, I wish that it wouldn't have got to that point because I hate that I hurt him. Because, at the end of the day, he is a wonderful man. We just were not the right match for one another. But all the other parts of it were not, things that made me feel bad or make me jaded or whatever that is. I think I said to a friend a few months ago, like, I love love so much, like more than anything, that I would go through all of it, like
Mhm.
not just the divorce, but like, other relationships that I've had or other things that have hurt my feelings or other love that has broken my heart because like I love love.
Yeah. And too many people, and I used to be like that, are afraid of the breakup. So they're not willing to even put themselves out there to experience the love. And
Mm-hmm.
I told someone, the harder it hurts, the more you loved that person.
Totally.
And my other quote I use all the time is, you have to feel to heal. You're
Yeah.
not going to heal unless you really feel that angst of it was good that you felt bad that you hurt him, but that was part of the healing process for probably both of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm, yeah. So many wise gems out there.
There
The
really
best
are.
part about That's the best part about all the personal development is I've learned so much, and there's so many uh, little gems that can impact the rest of your life.
Well, I think that that's what's so great. There's so many negatives that have come from social media and the, online spaces that are out there right now. But I think the positives is that now we all have access to so much that you really can find spaces and places that are right up your alley, and find people that are talking about things that you're in alignment with and that benefit you and that give you those aha moments and give you those gems, like you were saying, to like think and learn more about yourself and go, oh yeah, that makes so much sense to me.
I get angry sometimes about the algorithms of social media because it
Yeah,
can create an echo chamber. And I
yeah,
think it definitely contributes to a lot of the negativity in our world. But those same algorithms see that if I'm interested in, say, mindfulness, they're introducing me to things I would have never got to exposed to without them. So there's pros and cons to it all. I would love if social media didn't exist, but there's a lot of benefit to it in my life as well. So
yeah, I know those algorithms are wild. I was actually talking with someone at work the other day about how like you can spend just a second pause on something and the algorithm's like, all right, let's give more of that. And we got to talking about TikTok, because he said, well, how much time a day do you think you spend on TikTok? And I was like, fuck, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour. And he was like, what? And I was like, but I'm like, let me tell you what my algorithm feeds me though. It's a lot of food and cooking content. So like I will sometimes be on there because I'm looking for a certain recipe, or I'm following a recipe, or I'm creating a menu for a dinner party. Like, so, I mean, yes, could that be an excuse? Sure. I mean, sometimes I'm just like, this is hilarious shit and I want to laugh. So,
we need that joy in our life. We need that mind numbing content sometimes.
yeah. But I do think that it is, the echo chamber piece is fascinating, because you see some stuff, but then every once in a while, I mean, there was a point where I ended up on like, I think it was like Turkish TikTok for a little bit. And I was thrilled because it was a lot of dancing and a lot of fun and a lot of food content. I couldn't understand what they were talking about, but I was like, thank you for sending me here, because now I have some a joy that I did not know I needed.
Yes, I agree. So it's a double-edged sword, that those damn algorithms. I used Twitter as a search engine for the longest time. I followed only content related to fundraising. And so I would go on there, and if I needed to do a research on a specific topic within the fundraising industry, I was more likely to find it within my Twitter feed than I was on Google, because I was looking within the audience of that specialized in that area.
Yeah.
So
I know. I mean, there's even like massive social platforms that I don't even understand how they work. Like Reddit is such a foreign concept to me. Occasionally, like I'll Google something, or there'll be something major going on and someone will be like, here's a Reddit thread. And so I'll click on it and I'm like, how does this even work?
I don't know how it works. The other thing that's fascinating is the media has taken all the activity on social media and made it news. So I read Am I the Asshole? I don't know if I can say that in here, all the time from Reddit, but I read it in blogs. I don't read it on Reddit.
Got it. Yeah.
Anytime somebody does something on Instagram or Facebook or Reddit, someone writes about it. And that's how I consume that content.
You know what I just was thinking as these words were coming out of my mouth? Like, is somebody in like Gen Z, if somebody in Gen Z like listened to this like segment, would they feel the same way we did when our parents were like, what's call waiting mean?
Amy Schumer has a video out right now where she and her mother go to therapy about how to use technology. And her mom is like, I don't understand. How do you save this from my email? And the therapist is like, Amy, you need to be nice to your mom. And the mom and the therapist was like, it's hilarious, because there is that generation gap of the amount our parents or family members need our help with.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like, I tell the IT guys at work all the time, I'm like, I'm probably the most technologically challenged person at our company, and they don't disagree with my statement of that. And I'm just like every quarter there's some sort of app that will pop up that'll be like, you need to change your password in 14 days. And I wait till like day 0. And then I'm like, I can't get into my computer. And he's like, did you change your password like it told you to? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, do you want me to just set it back to what it was? And I'm like, yep.
So you're the mom in that scenario.
Definitely. But I'm like, I can do other things.
Yeah. We all have different things we contribute to the world. That's why there's never, it's an endless opportunity. Like so many people feel like, oh, this has already been done. The space is too saturated, or there's, someone else. How many podcasts in the world out there? Did that stop you from starting a podcast? No,
No.
because this podcast is going to relate to someone. It's going
Yeah.
to be meaningful to someone, and they're going to relate to it because you're exactly what they need right now in that time frame in their life.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's what I felt. I was like, you know what? Let's just do this because what's that whole thing? Like there's no other me, right? There's no other you, and all the people that we like them because of who they are. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like, my favorite podcast because it makes me laugh. That comes out every Monday morning. It's called Two Bears, One Cave. It's with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. They're comedians. They're absolutely hilarious together. I love their comedy. And but it's like I love it because it's them. I don't love it
Mm-hmm.
because there's like 20 other people like them. So I think that that's the point of all of this is that
Mm-hmm.
you're finding other folks who relate to what other, what you're going through, what I'm going through,
Yeah.
and getting good things from that.
And the algorithm will help them find their way to us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. Wait a
Um,
second. You're going through a divorce, and okay, here's the right podcast for you. Second,
right.
it there are tools out there to help bring us all together when we need each other.
There definitely are. So tell me, what are you getting ready to launch?
Oh, what am I launching? So um my podcast too,
Yes.
Herberate, let's celebrate. I really, when I moved from wanting to be a nonprofit, I want to focus on helping women, and I want women to who have for so long put themselves last, put
Mhm.
themselves first. And my methodology to do that is all around celebrating. And so I want to get that message out to the world, and I want to teach the world that the more we celebrate, the more we have to celebrate. And it really is about having a positive mindset. So you have 10 things that you need to get done on your list. If you're just focused on the negative, if you think about what you're going to do to celebrate when you get done with all those 10 things, you're going to get done with them twice as fast.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of work around that, and I want to get that out into the world. And so people can start to see how much of a difference it makes in their life when, just the same way you express gratitude, and how much of an impact that can make when you celebrate your accomplishments and you start to make it a habit and do it more regularly. You'll
Hmm.
see how much of a difference it impacts everything in your life. So that's what I'm launching. I'm getting that message out in the world.
I love that. And it's so true. I mean, I think that often so many of us overlook the little things or overlook the little accomplishments that are leading us to the big accomplishment and
Mm-hmm.
taking a moment to be like, hey, good job, me. I did that.
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, you did. And it makes such a big difference when you're like, oh, wait. And then I'm like, that felt good. I'm going to do it again, or I'm going
Yeah.
to do it better.
Mhm.
And so much is just in our mindset. So that's what I want to do next.
I love it. I can't
Mhm.
wait. I'm
So
excited.
thinking about it I haven't decided if I'm going to do a workshop on this at the end of the year. I need to put some things together, but I want people to do vision boards, or when they're closing down 2022, we all think about the top 10 things we did this year. So start to
Hmm.
think about all the amazing things you did this year,
Yeah.
celebrate them, and then plan a celebration for all the amazing things you're going to do in 2023. Like start to put the celebration before the goal. And
Yeah.
there's a way to do that. And so I'm excited to share that with people. So, in the end of year is the best time to do it, to really look back at the last year, what you accomplished, what you want to get better at, and when setting your goals for the new year.
I really like that because I think that I'm good at setting goals for the new year, but I haven't ever really sat down and like listed out, oh, hey, these are the things I accomplished in this past year. I mean, there's always kind of been like a running, oh, okay, done, 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 but I don't think I've ever sat there and listed them out. And I think I'm going to do that because I think that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, you should. And then you'll be like, wow, you'll realize you've done so much more than you thought of because you just did it and moved on.
Exactly. That's so true.
And it will inform what goals you set for next year. And you
Yeah.
won't get in the habit of setting the same 10 goals that everyone says: lose 5 pounds, talk to more people. We have the
Right.
same goals we do over and over again. But if you divine your goals based on what you've accomplished, it changes the landscape.
I think defining them, that's one of the things that I've been reading in this book where he was talking about goal setting, and he was saying like you can't just say like I want to get in better shape. Like it has to
Hmm.
be like so much more specific, because then your brain starts like putting things together almost like in
Yeah.
your subconscious, right? Like things are happening in the background while we're not even like working on this certain thing.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, I was that made me think really a lot about it too. And then one of the other things that he said was that he likes to have just like one, like instead of saying like here's like my 10 categories and how my goals fit into all of these categories, he was like just have like a word, like whatever the word is going to be for that, that year or that quarter or whenever you're starting this. um excuse me. And then it's like, okay, here's that word, and then how do these goals all ultimately like tie into that
Yeah.
one word? And I was like, "Ooh, okay, I like this. I like this. This is
I
feeling
do
good."
like picking a word of the year every year.
Mhm.
I don't remember what this year's word would have been. But back to that weight, like if you set a goal that you want to wear a bikini on your trip to Greece in the spring, that's your
Mm.
celebration is that you get to go to
Yeah,
Greece and feel
yeah,
great in a bikini, then you just reverse engineering your goal all the way to day one. Like,
yeah.
okay, that's how I'm going to celebrate. Let's go back and reverse engineer. How am I going to get there?
And putting some sense of urgency. I think the more specific you are, there can be a different level of urgency
Oh,
tied
yes.
to it, where, because like procrastination plays a role, all these different things, but having that sense of urgency and treating it like, I got to get this done. Like
Hmm.
shortening the window, and I don't mean that like about weight loss, because I certainly don't want to encourage anybody to do anything dire, but I'm just saying like, in general, whether it's, you want to save a certain amount of money, right? You want
Hmm.
to remodel, a bathroom in your house, you want to save for a certain trip, like, having that sense of urgency or feeling like, something to like get you motivated where you're like, oh man, I got to get this done. There's a deadline
Yeah.
tied to it.
100%, definitely. And they talk about that in Atomic Habits too. Setting goals that way with a deadline attached to it, very much so makes a difference in everything we do. Anyone that's selling anything, if you don't give them a deadline, people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah.
Let them buy it whenever they want. No, that's why sales, there's so much psychology behind it all. But
Oh yeah.
deadlines and urgency are key.
Yeah, you want to make people, well, yeah, especially with, I mean, yes, with sales. I mean, we talk about this all the time when we're doing some sort of promotion to bring people in to take advantage of the service that we offer. It's like, we can't just be open ended. It's got to be like, hey, if you sign up by Friday, you get
Mhm.
this. So making people feel like they're going to miss out if they don't.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
that's like,
very
think
much.
about going back to the algorithm. Think about all the targeted ads you get, for certain things on Instagram. I mean, I finally caved the other day. I bought this jumpsuit that I had seen the ad for no less than 100 times. And then my girlfriend texted to me. She's like, you would look so great in this. And I was like, do you know how many times I've seen an ad for this? That's probably why you saw the ad for it, because my phone
Mhm.
knew that I was near your phone the other day. And I bought it. And you know what? It actually is really cute. So well done.
Good. Was it on sale at the moment you bought it?
It was.
Mhm.
Yeah, that too. It was on sale. It was like 25 bucks off. And I was like, all right, I'll do it.
So my biggest learning on e-commerce this year was if you see an ad like that, go and look at it in the cart and then abandon the cart. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get a coupon for that product in your email within a day. So if you don't have a promo code or whatever, just go through
Uh-huh.
the process of buying it and then stop. And
Okay.
so it triggers, most e-commerce platforms are then set up to send you a discount to get you to buy it.
Man,
Mhm.
the psychology behind all of it.
Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
always, it's the best way to get a good deal.
Okay, good to know. Great. Now how many shopping carts do I have open right now?
And this is the worst time of the year because
I
I'm
was going
like
to say
today, I'm
it's
like,
good to know because it's the holidays.
yeah, with Black Friday being next week, all the early Black Friday sales and the holiday sales, I was like, it's going to take every willpower in me to not shop the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It really is. But
Mhm.
at least now, I mean, I remember, I think I only did this one time during Black Friday. I was never one to get up and get places right at the crack of dawn, but I had some friends who they had a whole, plan of attack, all the things. I went with them one year and I was like, this was not worth it at all. So now I
Mhm.
can just shop from the comfort of my own home, thankfully.
Yes.
But yeah.
It's the time to buy. And I need to be, for me, I need to sit down and figure out exactly what I need for Christmas and have a plan, or I'll just haphazardly buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need. And because we are moving in again in 10 days, I can't ship anything to where I'm at now.
Oh,
So,
great. Yeah.
and
Well, that's
it's good. And I
good.
have no room in the truck. The rule is no buying anything. We have nothing, no more room to fit anything in the truck.
Oh, well, there you go. Look, you have all these guard bands in place. You're going to be fine.
Yes. I'm trying. It's still hard. Those Instagram algorithms, they just keep showing me all this great, cute stuff.
Oh, it's brutal.
Did you see Dolly Parton has a dog line now?
No.
Doggy Parton. Hmm.
I mean, I can't believe it took her that long to launch that because it's brilliant.
Yeah, and all the money raised goes towards, helping dogs and shelters and everything else. But Norm would
Oh,
look cute in a lot of the stuff that she has.
he probably would. And now I'm certainly going to go take a look at that.
So now that I've sold that to you, you're going to be bombarded with ads. Nothing
Totally.
but cute country music stuff for Norm.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love it.
Mhm.
Well, on
Love
that
Dolly.
note, this was an amazing conversation. Thank
Yes.
you so much for joining me. Why don't you share your Instagram or website handles or anything that you have available to
Oh
share?
yeah. Celebrate with Nancy. So I think on Instagram it's Celebrate with Nancy, my URL. Celebrate with Nancy, my new website will be launched by December 8th.
Awesome.
It's all scheduled. So, and then I'm going to launch my podcast the week after. And so,
Can't
and you will be on a guest on it very soon. So I'm excited for that.
I'm excited too. That's awesome. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. And always you can find me at Round Two Podcast on Gmail or on Gmail. I mean, actually, it is Round Two Podcast at Gmail if you want to email, and on Instagram and on TikTok. And if you or anybody that you know you think would be a good person to come on and have a conversation, please reach out and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And we will talk to you next week.